Brooklands Radio believes your health matters.
So I have got Tricia Wolfie on the line today. Good afternoon, Tricia.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, I'm great, thank you. Thank you so much for talking to us today. We know that depression and suicide are constantly in the media at the moment, and I talked earlier about the BBC programme, The Doctor Who Gave Up Drugs, which was quite a worrying programme because it was talking a lot about how many teenagers and young adults are taking antidepressants today. But there is, of course, the opposite end of the spectrum as well, where people try and cope with this by themselves. So, Tricia, why do you think so many people do try and cope alone with this?
Well, I think one of the things about depression is that people tend to go into themselves. They tend to withdraw from the world. They lose pleasure or interest in things that they would normally enjoy and withdraw away from relationships. And that's because they've kind of emotionally given up, and they feel shame about how they feel. They may feel that they're being weak and that they've nothing to offer. So they tend to keep to themselves and use, in inverted commas, coping strategies that they think help but actually make things worse. Things like comfort eating or drinking too much, any kind of too-muching behavior, including social media, are people's coping mechanisms. But what those coping mechanisms do is really push down the emotions even more that need to be acknowledged, and then make the depression even worse and make the person feel even more isolated. So this is what happens, unfortunately. And
it is all about keeping up appearances. I know your brilliant blog post that you posted this week just really hit home to me, because we know that the amazing designer Kate Spade was unwilling to risk that the public discovering her depression. I find that quite strange with someone who is so popular, because people would just want to help her. They would have empathy.
You're speaking from the viewpoint of somebody who has empathy. She was thinking from the viewpoint of somebody who has an image to uphold, so her image was quite quirky and positive, and she had a brand that she wanted to preserve. And, I don't know what was actually in her mind, but I can only imagine that she thought that would damage the brand, and that she felt some shame that her persona was different to how she was actually feeling. And this happens for so many people. Thankfully, there are much more people that now speak out, so that's really balancing things. But it's amazing how many people, we had Robin Williams as well, who did the same thing, and he's somebody that you'd think would be super positive, but he was unable to cope with his demons either. So it's an unfortunate fact of life that some people just kind of withdraw into themselves.
Yeah, it's sad, isn't it? Very sad. Now, I know in that blog post you wrote about Brene Brown and some of her quotes, which again was just great information about wholehearted living. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's actually Brene Brown. So she's a lady, and she's written numerous books, and there's one that she's written called Daring Greatly, which is all about vulnerability, and how nobody wants to look vulnerable. Everybody wants to feel or appear that they're in control, that everything's okay, that all is good in the world. And it's a really difficult mask to uphold. And what it does is it creates more distance between people. Whereas what we all want, what is a human need, is to feel connected. So to feel properly connected, you have to be willing to be vulnerable. It actually takes a lot of courage to be vulnerable. So she talks about wholehearted living, which I just love what she's done with it. She's got 10 rules for wholehearted living, and I've said in the blog that, in my view, this is an antidote to stress and depression, because if you live that way, then you can't also be depressed or stressed or anxious or any of those things. Do you want me to go through them?
Yes, please. No, that would be great.
So there's 10. The first one is cultivating authenticity. which I think is really important, is letting go of what people think. So in the case of Kate Spade, she was obviously really anxious about what people thought of her. And I think, so I work with many, many people, and I would say this is a massive problem in society at the moment. The second one is cultivating compassion. Which she says is letting go of perfectionism. And again, a real big problem. Everybody thinks everything's got to be perfect. And especially with social media and magazines, everybody's been surgically enhanced and digitally honed, so you're not even seeing the real thing. But we compare ourselves to those images of perfection. And then the third one is cultivating a resilient spirit, and that is letting go of numbing and powerlessness. So I guess this is a little bit like the too-muching behavior that I spoke of, where people comfort eat or drink too much or smoke or shop, or gambling is big right now, social media is big right now. And the next one is cultivating gratitude and joy, and I know this is something that you're really big into as well. And letting go of scarcity. So there's a lot of fear that there isn't enough for everyone, and the antidote to that is cultivating gratitude and joy, because there is enough for everyone. Cultivating intuition and trusting faith. That means letting go of the need for certainty. It's like we're addicted to certainty. We have to know exactly what's what. And the world just isn't that way. It's very ambiguous. It's actually quite volatile. So there is a lot of uncertainty, and yet we crave it. Cultivating creativity, which is letting go of comparison, which I've spoken of already. Cultivating play and rest. And if you do that, then you're letting go of exhaustion as a status symbol and productivity for self-worth. Because we seem to have this thing that, if we're really tired, we're really successful, or we're really busy, so we're really fabulous. But actually, play and rest is what we need more of. And actually, if we did more of that, we'd probably have a lot more energy and be a lot more productive as well, because we're kind of making deposits into our energy bank, if you will.
Yes.
And then we've got cultivating calm and stillness, which we all need a little bit of sometimes, and that's letting go of anxiety as a lifestyle. So mindfulness is very popular at the moment, and there's a lot of things out there to help people be mindful. There's books and applications, and teachers also. I teach people to do it, and it really is excellent, and it helps depression as well. It helps still the mind. Cultivating meaningful work, which is letting go of self-doubt and supposed to's. So I do work with a lot of people who think they should be doing this and they should be doing that, rather than doing what they really love. And if you're doing what you really love, no matter whether somebody thinks you should have a higher paid job or a more glamorous job, if you're doing what you love, you've got joy in what you do, and that carries you forward. And then the last one, maybe my favorite, is cultivating laughter, song, and dance, which is letting go of being cool and always in control. So what's that saying? Dance as if no one's watching, and sing as though no one's listening. And these, if you were able to cultivate these, and I'm happy to share them with anybody that emails me, or get the book. It is a very good book. Then depression has to subside. It cannot coexist. And stress will diminish, and anxiety will diminish also.
I think that last one, I agree with you, is my favourite, because we all know just finding something that will make you laugh, or just singing a song very, very loudly, is and dancing is just such a great way to relieve stress and tension.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, Tricia, we know that you're an expert in helping people improve their performance and their productivity with less stress and get better results. How? What other ways could you maybe help someone who was suffering from depression?
Well, I do business coaching, but I'm also a therapist, and I do hypnotherapy, and I do nutrition as well. So I have what I call an integrative approach. So I look at things like, biologically, are they eating enough omega-3s, which many people aren't, and it's difficult to get enough through diet? Are they having enough B vitamins in their diet? And that, again, it's difficult to get everything that you need from food alone. So doing that, teaching them mindfulness, getting them to look at their thinking patterns, which really get in the way. So depressed people are often awfulizing things, or making things more awful than they are, getting rid of their obsessive thinking, getting rid of personalizing things. So there's lots of ways to work with people to help them feel better. And probably something people can do to help themselves is really start to detach from social media. We spend too much time. So I do go on social media, but I spend very little time on it. And I know that if I spend too much, it's not a nice feeling.
Yeah.
So we need to start connecting with people, make better connections with people again.
Yeah, no, I think that whole connection thing is so important.
It really is.
Tricia, how can people get hold of you, and maybe how can they find your blog?
Right, so the blog, and so I've got two different websites. So that one's on the Ahead for Success, so that's A-HEAD for success.co.uk website. And I can be contacted via email on Tricia, which is spelled Tricia, at triciawolfrey.com.
Okay, that's brilliant. Tricia, thank you so much for being with us this afternoon and for giving us that advice, because I think those 10 points are brilliant. And
they are.
Yeah, I think that could help so many people. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
And thank you to Brene.
Yes, definitely. Thank you to Brene. And apologies for pronouncing her name wrong. I always wondered how you pronounced her name.
Yeah, and she seems delightful. I'd love to meet her one day.
Yes.
Maybe I will.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. You too.
Cheerio.
Bye-bye.
All right, then.
That
Bye-bye.
was Tricia Wolfrey talking to us about the stress of keeping up appearances.
Brooklands Radio believes your health matters.
If you've enjoyed this podcast, why not keep up to date with the sound of Surrey by listening live at brooklandsradio.co.uk or through our free mobile app.